Gotta say, editing the intros to these videos is probably my favorite thing to do for each Friday, and by the way, extra internet points if you know where that movie clip came from. And if it isn't obvious enough already, this entire episode is completely about the custom Lego build for the Balrog. This custom Lego MOC comes from the talented designer Aaron Newman, and we thought it was about time that we would fit in one of the larger, cooler characters from the Lord of the Rings series, specifically seen in Fellowship of the Ring, where we don't yet actually have an official Lego set for the Balrog. It's posable, it's got an excellent design, and I think it's built to fig scale, though I don't know if there's any official measurements that you can do to actually figure that out. Like always, if you wanted to build this creation yourself, we do sell the instructions and parts list at our web store. That's www.brickvault.toys. There, with each purchase, you would get PDF step-by-step building instructions along with a digital parts list that you can upload online for quickly ordering all the pieces that you would need to make this guy. Buying instructions from us is a great way to help support us here at the studio, as well as the talented designers that we work with, like Aaron. Now, I'm not going to get into the massive history that goes behind just about every single character that you would see from the Middle-earth universe, but needless to say, this Balrog was called Durin's Bane. He was given that name by the dwarves from thousands of years ago when they were still in Moria. And ultimately, this was one of the sort of fallen angels that became a demon-like creature that helped out Morgoth, who Sauron was actually a lieutenant for. So needless to say, this guy is like from way back when. He's incredibly powerful, incredibly evil, and this is still probably one of the coolest scenes from any of the trilogy movies from the original Lord of the Rings. And in general, I just put those three movies a lot higher than that of what we saw from the Hobbit series. So now that you've had some time to get a general sense of what this build looks like, let's get into some of the more detailed parts of it. He's primarily built in black. We got a lot of dark bluish gray as well, and Aaron has made this model incredibly posable. So first off, let's start with the wings. They're built with mostly Technic pieces. You can see those longer cross pieces used to kind of just make the skeleton framework. I think this works pretty darn well for the creature. The only way to really make wings outside of this vein would be to either add gigantic, super heavy brick-built wings, which I'm not sure would work, or create your own wing pieces out of paper or vinyl or something like that, which generally we try to avoid. Sometimes we'll add stickers to MOCs, but I feel like that would have been too invasive for the average builder, and ultimately I think the skeleton framework makes the Balrog look just a bit more menacing, because it really does add a large proportion to this guy, and the posability of each little spiked point actually gives you a lot of different options when you want to display him. This is primarily a display model, and I'm really happy that there are two very posable joints on the back of the Balrog, because here you can either lift the wings way up or bring them all the way down. Now, as luck would have it, I gripped this model by the incorrect spot, so let me show you where by far the weakest point of this build is just right now, because it looks like things worked out this way during the filming. Just about everywhere on the model is pretty darn solid, though I do have to say, don't really touch the face. If it falls forward, the face will break off, and there are just a few steps to getting it on there. You can see how the snout or front of the face attaches to a single Technic brick, with the back of the head and jaw really connecting to the other side. All of that sticks onto the bottom, and then you have to be a little bit careful when getting the top of the head on. Pretty much the top of the head and horns and eyes all stick together pretty well, but when adding the whole thing together, you do have to be a little bit careful about keeping the snout or front of the face on the build all at the same time. At the end of the day, custom models are not play models. This is primarily display. And when talking about delicacy, I feel like there's certain degrees of delicacy to a model where little things might pop off very quickly and you can add them on in a second, while other things, if they break, are a little bit more precarious or require a little bit more patience. This is certainly one of those things, but ultimately I think for a brick-built face of a creature, we got some excellent proportions, and this is something that I think if Lego had made the Balrog, or if they ever do make a Balrog, it would just be some kind of molded piece. So good on you, Aaron, for making such an awesome looking front of the creature, and fair warning to those that drop this guy forward, because the head is just takes a little bit more time to put back together. Now for the rest of the posability, I love the use of those black shoulder pieces that came from the Star Wars buildable figs. It makes a nice proportion. There are ball joints that go onto the shoulder, that go onto the elbow or forearm. The hand can rotate all the way around, the fingers open and close. I actually like the shape of that hand quite a lot. And before anybody says anything, no, there is no whip, there is no fire sword, it's just the Balrog. And we've got a few ideas on how we want the whip or fire sword to look for the future. So for now, we don't know what they're gonna look like, but if anybody's got some good suggestions, we're definitely game to hear about it. Now, when it comes to the legs, once again, we have a lot of posability. They can go pretty much all the way around 360 degrees with the ratcheted joints. The legs can twist outwards. The knee can bend all the way to the front if you really wanted. And of course, there's a lot of posability on the ankles. Generally speaking, though, this guy isn't weighted out in a way where you can have him doing some crazy big leaps unless you wanted to build a little bit of a support stand possibly. But he does have a few degrees of standing either a little bit further back or a little bit further forward. The tail, depending on how you have it ratcheted, can also work as sort of a supporting piece, kind of like how a kangaroo uses its back tail, or you can have this ratcheted area suspended off the ground. It was funny when we first started talking to Aaron, because we had just started stepping our game up when it comes to showing off our minifigure collections. And of course, for our Lord of the Rings collection, we needed to have some awesome larger creatures, like we couldn't not have Shelob or some of the other creatures, and the Balrog really is my top favorite monster or creature from the entire Middle-earth universe. So if you do want to build this model for yourself, we do sell the instructions at our web store. That is www.brickvault.toys. But for real, we do have some ideas about how we want a whip or a sword to look in the future. Currently, I've got ideas about those trans orange chain pieces, but let me know what you think about this model, what you think about what his weapons should look like for the future. And if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. If you have any ideas about other models you want to see us build in the future, let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.